You ever notice how life has this strange way of pushing you into people's paths at the exact moment they need someone? Not a second earlier, not a breath too late. Right on cue, like some twisted play you didn't know you were starring in. You think it's random, accidental, but it isn't. No, it's orchestrated. Carefully, deliberately. You get pulled, shoved, thrown into someone else's story because you carry something they don't, something only you can give. And maybe you don't even realize it yet. Maybe you're too busy doubting yourself, calling yourself unworthy, when in reality, you've been handpicked. Chosen to step into the chaos of another soul and be the spark that flips their whole world upside down. You walk around thinking you're wandering, don't you? Like your life is just this messy trail of accidents, coincidences, and detours. You think the places you've been, the people you've met, the pain you've carried, were all just random events colliding in some cruel little joke. But deep down, you know better. You've felt it, haven't you? Those moments where everything lines up too perfectly. Where you bump into someone you shouldn't have, at a time you shouldn't be there, saying words you didn't even plan to say. That's not wandering. That's being placed. With precision. Like chess pieces on a board. The trouble is, you hate the idea of being moved. You want control. You want certainty. You want to know why. But that's not how this game works. You're not supposed to see the whole board. You're supposed to step where you're pushed and trust that the ground won't cave in beneath your feet. It feels unfair. I know. You want to believe you're the one choosing your path. But the truth is, paths cross because they're meant to. Not because you're clever enough to find them, but because you're carrying something someone else needs. And you're being dragged into position whether you like it or not. Think about it. The times you thought you were lost, weren't you actually being guided? You ended up in places that looked like accidents, but then, suddenly, someone there needed exactly what you had. A word, a gesture, a reminder they weren't alone. And you thought it was coincidence. No, it was orchestration. You're not wandering blind. You're a courier, carrying pieces of hope, fragments of light, messages that weren't even meant for you, but for the one you'd eventually meet. It's unsettling, isn't it? To realize you're not the center of your own story. That maybe, just maybe, your pain wasn't just about you. Maybe it was training, shaping, breaking you down, so you'd have the right words when you stood in front of someone else who thought they couldn't go on. Maybe the nights you cried, the wounds you hid, the scars you carry, they weren't wasted. They were forged into keys. Keys you don't even realize you're holding until you're face to face with someone whose lock only you can open. And here's the part nobody tells you. Being placed doesn't feel glorious. It feels inconvenient. You'll be in the middle of your own storm, drowning in your own chaos, and suddenly, there they are, someone desperate, someone lost, and you'll feel this tug inside, this unshakable pull that says, speak, stay, give them what you have. And you'll argue with it. You'll think, I'm not ready. I'm broken. I have nothing left to give. But that's the irony. The very cracks you despise in yourself are the exact openings through which your light leaks out. The things you thought made you weak are the things that make you perfect for the assignment. You're not wandering. You're being positioned. And sometimes that positioning hurts. It means losing people you thought would stay forever. Watching doors slam you thought should have opened. Finding yourself in places that make no sense at all. But those very losses, those very detours, are what line you up with the ones you were sent for. You're not being punished. You're being moved. Like pieces sliding into place for a moment you won't see coming until it's right in front of you. And when it happens, you'll know. You'll feel it. The words will spill out of your mouth without rehearsal. The presence of your scars will comfort them more than your polished wisdom ever could. And you'll realize you didn't wander here at all. You were placed here. Precisely. Intentionally. Because someone needed you more than you needed your excuses. What you carry isn't for you. And that's the part most people never understand. You walk through life thinking the weight on your shoulders, the scars on your skin, the fire in your chest. It's all yours to deal with. You think the lessons you've learned, the battles you've fought, the nightmares you've survived, were handed to you just to torment you. But no, that's not it. You've been carrying something that was never meant to stay locked inside. You've been walking around like a messenger who doesn't realize he's holding the letter that could change someone's life. The irony is, you probably look at yourself and think you're empty, broken, useless. But what if that's the disguise? What if the very things you despise about yourself are the things that make you the perfect vessel? Think about it. Every wound you've endured taught you something. Every betrayal sharpened your instincts. Every loss carved depth into your soul. And all of that isn't just for your survival. It's so when someone else is bleeding from the same kind of cut, you know exactly what to say, how to look at them, how to let them know they're not alone. You've been entrusted with more than you realize. The resilience you built in silence, the strength nobody saw you fight for, the wisdom you didn't ask for but bled for. That's not just your trophy case. That's ammunition for someone else's battle. You carry words that can pierce through despair, gestures that can lift someone who's sinking, presence that can steady a shaking soul. And you may think it's small, insignificant, but for the one who needs it, it's everything. Funny thing is, carrying something for others feels like a burden until the moment it's released. You'll spend years asking why you had to suffer so much, why you had to lose so much, why the weight never left your chest. And then, in an instant, you'll meet someone whose eyes mirror the same agony you once had, and suddenly it all makes sense. The burden becomes a gift. The pain transforms into proof. You realize the things you thought broke, you actually equipped you to be the one person who could reach them. And here's the part that stings. It's not optional. You can't bury what you carry. You can try to silence it, numb it, lock it away, but it leaks out anyway. In your tone, in your presence, in the way you look at people. Others can feel it, even if you never say a word. They're drawn to you. Not because you're perfect, but because something in you resonates with their hidden wounds. It's like a signal, a frequency only the broken can hear. They recognize the scars in you, and that recognition gives them hope for their own. What you carry isn't for your comfort. It's for someone else's survival. And yes, it's unfair. Yes, it feels heavy. Yes, it would be easier if you could just live for yourself. But you've been set apart for something bigger than easy, and the weight on you proves it. It proves you're trusted with something powerful, something that could shake another soul awake. Every story you've survived, every battle you've endured, every dark night that didn't kill you, it all adds up to this: you're a carrier of words that matter, of experiences that heal, of presence that changes atmospheres. The things you think are useless, they're weapons in someone else's war. The memories you wish you could erase, they're maps for someone else who's lost in the same wilderness. The tears you shed in silence, they're the empathy someone else will need when they can't stop crying. And isn't that something? To realize your life hasn't been random suffering, but preparation. That the weight you've cursed has been the very thing that proves you were chosen to carry what others couldn't. You're not empty, you're full. Full of stories, full of scars, full of fire. And none of it was ever just for you. Doubt has a way of crawling in like smoke under a locked door. You try to shut it out. You try to convince yourself you're strong, but there it is, whispering in your ear, twisting your stomach, slowing your steps. You start asking questions you can't answer. Why me? Am I really chosen? Do I even have what it takes? And the more you think about it, the heavier it feels, like every weakness, every failure, every scar you carry is proof that you're unworthy. That's how doubt works. It doesn't scream, it suffocates. It convinces you that what's been placed on you was a mistake. But here's the irony. Doubt doesn't cancel the assignment. You can feel broken, unqualified, completely unprepared, and still be the one sent. Because being chosen isn't about being flawless. It's about being willing. And willingness often shows up wrapped in fear. You think courage means never trembling, never second guessing yourself. But no, courage is showing up in spite of the tremble. It's moving when your legs want to lock. It's speaking when your throat burns to stay silent. Doubt is part of the process, but it's not the end of the story. The truth is, the ones who question themselves are often the very ones who can be trusted most. Because they don't take the weight lightly. They don't strut around assuming they're worthy. They wrestle with the responsibility. They feel the gravity of it, and that humility, that awareness, is exactly why they're chosen. You see, arrogance disqualifies people far quicker than doubt ever could. Doubt makes you careful, makes you lean on strength outside yourself, makes you remember that this isn't about your comfort, but about someone else's survival. And think about it. Doubt only shows up when something matters. Nobody doubts themselves over things that don't count. You don't stand in front of the mirror wondering if you're worthy to tie your shoes. No. Doubt creeps in when the stakes are high, when the outcome is bigger than you. Which means if you're doubting, it's because you're standing in front of something significant. It's because what's inside you carries weight, carries power, carries potential to alter someone else's life. But doubt doesn't just attack your worth, it also attacks your memory. It makes you forget what you've already survived. It convinces you that the same person who crawled through hell and made it out is suddenly too fragile for the task ahead. It blinds you to the evidence of your own history, all the nights you should have broken, but didn't, all the battles that should have killed you but left you standing. Doubt thrives on amnesia. It needs you to forget how strong you really are, because if you remembered, you'd laugh in its face. Yet here's the beautiful twist. Doubt can become fuel. It keeps you leaning forward, keeps you desperate, keeps you hungry. The ones who think they've got it all figured out, they fall the hardest. But the ones who doubt, they prepare, they stay alert, they move carefully. Doubt keeps you from becoming careless with what you've been given. It may torment you, but it also keeps you sharp. So yes, you'll doubt. You'll wake up some mornings convinced you're not enough, convinced you should walk away, convinced somebody else would be better suited for the role. But walking away doesn't erase the call. It follows you, tugs at you, gnaws at you in the quiet hours. Because it was never about perfection. It was about obedience. It was never about you feeling worthy. It was about you being willing to carry what was placed in your hands. Doubt is a shadow. Nothing more. It looms large, but it has no substance. It can scare you, distract you, slow you. But it can't stop you unless you hand it the keys. And that's the secret. You don't have to feel worthy to be chosen. You just have to move, even if your knees are shaking, even if your voice cracks, even if your heart tells you to quit. Doubt may walk beside you, but it doesn't get to decide where you go. Fear, that ugly, trembling little thing that sits in the pit of your stomach, scratching at your ribs, whispering in your ear that you'll never make it. Fear is a master illusionist. It paints pictures in your head of disasters that haven't even happened yet, and suddenly your hands sweat, your knees buckle, and you stop before you even begin. That's the trick. It doesn't need to strike you down. It just needs to paralyze you long enough for opportunity to slip away. You think you're protecting yourself, but what you're really doing is handing your future over to shadows. And the funny part, most of the things you fear never even happen. You build castles of catastrophe in your mind, every brick laid by worry, every tower built from doubt. You rehearse failure like it's a script, playing it again and again until it feels like truth. Fear doesn't even need reality on its side, just imagination. And when your imagination gets hijacked, it's no longer a tool, it's a weapon against yourself. That's the cruel joke. You become your own jailer. locking yourself in cages made of thoughts. But what fear doesn't tell you is that it only shows up when you're close to something that matters. Nobody fears the ordinary. Nobody fears the meaningless. Fear prowls when you're standing on the edge of change, when you're about to step into something greater. That's when it slithers in, because it knows if you move forward, if you break through, the chains it's wrapped around you won't matter anymore. Fear fights hardest when the breakthrough is closest. It snarls, it bites, it threatens. But that desperation is proof that you're stepping into dangerous territory. For the fear, not for you. You've got to understand that fear is not an enemy to be destroyed, but a compass to be read. Wherever it's pointing, that's usually where your destiny lies. Fear only trembles in the presence of potential. If you're scared of speaking, maybe your voice was meant to shake nations. If you're terrified of failure, maybe success is hiding right beyond the risk you're avoiding. Fear reveals your battlefield, the exact place where victory is hiding. You think it's a warning sign, but really it's a map. And when fear comes, it never comes empty-handed. It brings along excuses. You're not ready. You're too weak. You'll embarrass yourself. Those aren't truths. Those are chains. Soft enough to wrap around your mind, but strong enough to hold you still. Excuses feel safe. They make sense in the moment. But when the years slip by, when the opportunities rot where you left them, you'll realize those excuses were the most dangerous lies you ever believed. Fear doesn't take your life in one blow. It takes it in small pieces, one excuse at a time, until you wake up wondering why nothing ever changed. And yet, there's a strange thing about fear. It can't survive exposure. Speak it out loud, drag it into the open, and suddenly it shrinks. Confront it head-on, and it stutters. Walk toward the very thing you're afraid of, and you'll feel it crumble under your feet. Fear only has power in the shadows, where it grows bigger than it is. The moment you shine light on it, you see it for what it really is: smoke, a shadow on the wall, an empty threat that only carried weight because you bowed to it. But here's the real secret. Fear isn't the absence of strength. It's the proof of it. You don't fear what doesn't matter. You don't fear what you're unprepared for. The presence of fear is the clearest sign that you are carrying something valuable, something dangerous to the darkness, something too important to be left alone. That's why the resistance is so strong. That's why the whispers are so loud. Because deep down, fear knows the truth about you, a truth it hopes you never discover. It knows that if you ever push through, if you ever stop letting it decide for you, nothing could hold you back. So fear plays its game. It shakes your hands. It quickens your pulse. It keeps you awake at night rehearsing disasters that don't exist. But you've got to learn to recognize the game for what it is. Fear is loud because you're close, not because you're lost. It's shaking because it knows what happens if you keep going. It's trembling because your next step might just shatter the chains it spent years wrapping around you. Pain, that little guest that never waits for an invitation, always barges in, rearranges everything, leaves a mess behind. You try to shut the door on it, but somehow it finds its way in. People spend their whole lives running from it, numbing it, pretending it doesn't exist. But here's the funny thing. Pain is one of the only honest things left in this world. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it doesn't play nice. It rips, it burns, it crushes, but beneath all of that, it teaches. Pain is the teacher you curse in the moment, but thank years later when you realize everything it forced out of you was exactly what you needed. Most don't see it that way. They see pain as punishment, as proof that they've been abandoned, as evidence that life is unfair. And maybe life is unfair. Maybe it's cruel, maybe it's merciless. But pain isn't always cruelty. It's often a kind of chiseling. Like stone in the hands of a sculptor, pain chips away at you, strips off the excess, the weakness, the illusions you cling to. Every blow feels like destruction, but what if it's construction? What if the very thing you're begging to stop is what's shaping you into something you can't even imagine yet? Think about it. The strongest steel doesn't come from gentle hands. It comes from fire. Heat, hammer, pressure, repeat. That's the process. And still, people want strength without the forge, wisdom without the scars, depth without the drowning. You want the crown without the thorns, the victory without the battle. But pain doesn't work that way. Pain doesn't hand out shortcuts. It drags you through the fire because it knows the fire is the only thing that reveals what you're really made of. And isn't that the part that terrifies you? Not the pain itself, but what it might uncover. Maybe you're afraid it'll show you just how fragile you are. Or maybe, just maybe, you're afraid it'll show you how much power you've been hiding. Because once you see that strength, once you realize you can survive what should have destroyed you, then you have no excuse left. Pain exposes the truth you can't ignore. It peels back the lies and leaves you standing bare with nothing but your raw self staring back at you. People who avoid pain live shallow lives. They keep everything safe, everything soft, everything predictable. And sure, maybe they dodge the bruises. Maybe they escape the sleepless nights. Maybe they even convince themselves they're happy. But deep down, they're empty. Because without pain, there is no growth. Without loss, no gratitude. Without breaking, no healing. A smooth path never made a strong traveler. It's the cracks in the road, the storms overhead, the nights you thought would never end. Those are the things that shape you. And let's not forget, pain doesn't always mean tragedy. Sometimes pain is the evidence of transformation. Think about the seed buried in the soil. It breaks apart before it grows. The butterfly thrashes in its cocoon before it flies. Even birth itself, the start of life, comes through pain. Every great beginning hides behind something that looks like an ending. Every new level of yourself requires shedding an old skin, and that shedding, it hurts. That's the price. That's the process. That's the proof. But what do most people do? They try to numb it. They run to distractions, addictions, anything that dulls the sting. But when you numb pain, You don't just numb the hurt, you numb the lessons, the strength, the awakening that's trying to claw its way out of you. Pain demands to be felt, because inside its claws is the very thing you've been praying for. That strength you keep asking for. It's hidden in the trial you're trying to escape. That clarity you've been begging for. It's tucked away in the tears you won't let yourself cry. That destiny you're chasing. It's hiding in the very place you've been avoiding because it burns too much to stand there. The irony is, pain is proof that you're alive. Numbness is death in disguise, but pain means your heart still beats. Your spirit still fights. Your story is still being written. It's a reminder that you're still in the game. Still capable of change, still standing even when everything inside you screams to collapse. Pain is a signal, not an ending. It's the alarm bell of transformation, the toll of becoming. The sound of weakness being burned away so something unshakable can rise.